Hello everyone, my name is Naomi, aka Nifty Nomi, and welcome to my channel, Be That Business. I'm a Canadian bookkeeper and a new business educator, and I help entrepreneurs look under the hood to see how it all works. I'm fighting the good fight against double work and against giving CRA more money than you have to. I've been putting out useful and interesting newsletters twice a month on the 14th and the 29th. If you prefer to read your newsletters, check out my sign-up link in the description below, and there's also a link to a transcript of today's newsletter. On to today's newsletter. Hello, and welcome to April 29th, 2024. In this newsletter, what's due at the end of April, my 3 favorite resources for April, and what due dates are coming up in May. Let's dive into what's due at the end of April. April 30th is a big due date for many Canadians. Here's some important business due dates for you to be aware of. If your GST/HST is quarterly and falls on the standard quarters, then the first quarter, January to March 2024, is due to be filed and paid on or before April 30th. If your GST/HST filing is annual and based on the calendar year January to December, and you are self-employed, then your due date to file your HST is June 15th, but your due date to pay it is April 30th. If your GST/HST is annual and is based on the standard calendar year and also is payable by more than $3,000 the previous year you filed, then you are required to pay a GST/HST installment towards your 2024 GST/HST return on or before April 30th. This installment should be either 25% of what your net GST/HST was from your previous filing or 25% of what you predict it will be if you predict it's going to be less than the year before. If you're unsure, just default to paying 25% of the net tax from the previous year. If you have employees, then you are likely registered for Provincial Workplace Insurance, WSIB or WCB. WCB in some provinces is due monthly and on the 15th. In Ontario, WSIB is due quarterly for insurable earnings over $20,000, and the premiums on earnings from January 1st to March 31st are due on April 30th. Now, for those who are not self-employed or are not the spouse of someone who is self-employed, their personal tax return is due on or before April 30th. April 30th is also their due date to pay any income tax owing. For those who are self-employed or are the spouse of someone self-employed, though their personal income tax return is not due until June 15th, your due date to pay any income tax owing is still April 30th. Even if your income tax is not finalized, find out an estimate of what the taxes may be and be sure to pay that to CRA as an installment on 2023's tax account before April 30th. UHT tax return. If you own or have an interest in a residential property in Canada with 3 or less units, you may need to file an underused housing tax return by April 30th, 2024. This due date was updated from its original due date of October 31st, 2023. Find out more details about the UHT in my link in the description below. If your business is incorporated and owed corporate income tax for the previous fiscal year, then you are required to pay installments for next year on the last day of every month. April 30th is the due date for the April corporate tax installment. Though there are no other standard items due at the end of this month, be aware that if your sales tax filing is monthly, March's GST/HST filing and remittance is due on April 30th. Also, if your corporate fiscal year end is October, your corporate tax return is due 6 months after your fiscal year end, so in April. If your corporate year end is February, the income tax payable is payable 2 or 3 months after the fiscal year end, either due in April or in May, depending on your corporation. Check in with your accountant to find out more about your corporate tax due dates specific to your corporation. Now on to my 3 favorite resources for April. My favorite resources for April, number 1, a simple guide to tax-deductible business expenses. BDC put out this great guide on how to quickly identify deductible expenses and a list of common business expenses you can deduct and answers to frequent questions about business tax deductions. Find a link to this guide in the description below. My favorite April resource number 2, Federal Budget 2024. How will it affect Canadians? MoneyFit has published this article on the recently announced 2024 federal budget, and it includes a mention of the introduction of the Canadian Entrepreneurs Incentive and the businesses that excludes. You can find a link to this in the description below. My favorite resources for April, number 3. 5 scheduling methods to bring more focus to your day. Zapier rounded up the 5 most common scheduling methods and gives a rundown of each one and discusses their pros and cons. You can find a link to this article in the description below. What resources have you found that have helped you start, run, or grow your business? Feature it and a call out to your business in our next resources newsletter. What due dates are coming up in May? Now it's the time to prep your May calendar. Be that business that is organized. Here are some May due dates that might affect your business. If you have employees, May 15th is the due date for your payroll source deductions relating to April's payroll. If you have employees, then you are likely registered for Provincial Workplace Insurance, WSIB or WCB. WCB in some provinces is due monthly and on the 15th. In Ontario, WSIB is due quarterly, and the premiums on earnings from April to June are not due until July 31st. If you are incorporated and you owed corporate income tax for your previous fiscal year, then you are required to pay installments for the next year on the last day of every month. May 31st is the due date for the May corporate tax installment. Though there are no other standard items due at the end of this month, be aware that if your sales tax filing is monthly, April's GST/HST filing and remittance is due on May 31st. If your sales tax quarterly filing is on a different schedule because of a corporate fiscal year end date that is not standard, the GST/HST for a quarter, February to April, would be due May 31st. Also, if your corporate fiscal year end is November, your corporate tax return is due 6 months after your fiscal year end, so in May. If your corporate year end is March, the income tax payable is payable 2 or 3 months after the fiscal year end, either due at the end of May or at the end of June, depending on your corporation. Check in with your accountant to find out more about your corporate tax due dates specific to your corporation. Have you heard about my fabulous first days at 5? If you're looking to connect, join my live Fabulous First Fridays at 5 open Zoom meeting. My monthly open AMA, or Ask Me Anything, Zoom chat session is where we can connect and discuss questions regarding starting and running a business in Canada, and all things related such as bookkeeping and software and apps. It's a free group event where anyone can drop by and say hi and ask a question. The next one up is this coming Friday, May 3rd at 5 o'clock. There's a link to register in the description below. If you found this video useful, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. I'm also on Instagram at BeThatBusiness, and you can tweet at me, X at me, I'm at NiftyNomi, and I'm also at NiftyNomi on Twitch and TikTok. And you can find resources and courses about running a Canadian business on my website, naomiwilkins.ca. The video today was recorded in beautiful Gananoque, Ontario. Thanks for watching, and get out there and be that business that thrives.